Everyone, and welcome. Today is Friday, June the 12th, 2026. This is the Governing Board Workshop meeting for the month of June. I call this meeting to order at 9 o'clock in the morning. And if you're able to rise, please do and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So once again, good morning. I'm Christine Novello. I'm the Governing Board President, and welcome you here today. We do have all 9 of us on the Governing Board here in person. If you want to know us a little bit more, before our terms come to an end, please go back to the September 9th workshop meeting where we introduced ourselves in detail. Before we get started, I'll read our regular meeting procedures. The Governing Board and its committees conduct all their meetings in compliance with Arizona Planned Community Association open meeting laws per ARS 33-1804 and in concert with RCSCW bylaws, policies, and standing rules. Parliamentary procedures as outlined in the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order will also be followed in all meetings as appropriate, consistent with Bylaw 3.07, Procedures for Owner-Member Meetings, and Standing Rules number 2 and number 3. All attendees, just a quick reminder to silence your cell phones if you have them with you, or any mobile devices, same for us who are here up on the dais today. And if you're watching this meeting live but remotely, you're welcome to also participate using the YouTube comments area. We'll get to your comments when we can. Remember, there's about a 30-second to a 1-minute delay between what we're saying here live in the room and what you're hearing. So bear with us if we don't get to you right away. That being said, let's get started right away. We have our workshop meeting minutes from May the 8th, 2026. Directors, any modifications or concerns? So consensus to approve? Great. We'll move on then to the very exciting financial reviews. We've been so focused on in our past several workshops that we have not looked at some of these. So CFO Cliff Swan will come to the microphone now and go through financial reviews.
Thank you, President Novello. Good morning, Governing Board. Good morning, community. Just going to go over the April year-to-date financial results. We're in the process of closing May right now, and then just in general working at finishing the year. So we're in a pretty good spot. I'm happy to present these financials. So, of course, we'll go through the financials from the operating end and talk about prior year and budget, and then we'll look at year-to-date. And then we'll look at the current month, and then we'll look at year-to-date and do a comparison. Then we'll move to the capital section of the income statement, talk about things like APFs and investment, reserve fund investment results down there. And then finally finish up with the capital section as well as the fully funded balance percentage. So taking a look at the month of April, we had a tough month in golf in terms of golf rounds. Compared to budget, and finished 113,000 unfavorable in golf because of that. Down in the rec and events section, that was just timing of when we budgeted events revenue. We budgeted that revenue to hit in April, and based on the schedule, it hit a month early in March. So we'll see the year-to-date rec and events column, and you'll still see we're ahead of budget there. But 149,000 unfavorable on the revenue side. Looking at the expense side, for the month, we're 91,000 favorable. Again, timing on a lot of this stuff still in terms of year-to-date, but 91,000 ahead, which fortunately offset the revenue unfavorability of 149,000. So finished the month at 58,000 unfavorable to budget and 54,000 unfavorable to prior year. Looking at year to date, we are 307,000 behind budget. If you look at the sports pavilion, fortunately, we had a good year through April, but we're closed in May and in June, so we're not going to have any revenue there. So that's really going to offsets some of that favorability of 102,000. But overall, 307,000 unfavorable to budget on the revenue side, mostly attributable to golf. Looking at the expense side of the income statement, we're 1.2 million ahead. The bulk of that in wages and benefits, and the bulk of the 544,000 favorability in wages and benefits lies in our golf division. And then from the utilities perspective, 250,000. Again, the bulk of that in the golf division, because we didn't have to run our pumps this spring as much as we had budgeted, or as much as we thought, even compared to prior year. So overall, 1,237,000. I will say that favorability in these other categories like landscape maintenance and repairs and maintenance, as we work through May and June, that favorability will reduce. Overall, 930,000 favorable to budget. Keep in mind, if whatever we carry in excess at the end of the year or favorability to budget will be included in our reserve fund allocation, which is calculated. I'll give an estimate on that at our annual meeting next week of what we anticipate that to be. And then once we have our audit performed by Clifton Larson Allen, they will give us the final approval on that amount, and we'll transfer those funds in November. This year we'll have, because we had a smaller year in terms of capital improvement budget, at less than probably about 5.5 million when it's all said and done, maybe 5.6 million, we'll be transferring into our reserve fund this year because of our inflows versus our outflows for capital spend. But looking at compared to prior year, we're 258,000 ahead of prior year. Anticipate us really closing the gap on the prior year favorability. We'll probably end up around the same spot. So wages and benefits, talk about the big variances to prior year. Wages and benefits, of course, budgeted 597,000 unfavorable to prior year, and then favorable on landscape repairs by 77,000, and we'll close the gap on that landscape repairs by the end of the year. So switching over to the capital section of the income statement, let's talk about APFs. APFs, we had a good month in April for asset preservation fees and transactions in the community. We finished 52,000 ahead of budget. And if you look at the reserve fund, we had a positive valuation change of 700,000 in the month of April. So that was a good month for us in our reserve fund. Look, compared to prior year, we finished in APF fees at 78,000 ahead of prior year, and in that reserve fund we finished 694,000 favorable to prior year in the month of April. Looking at the year-to-date numbers, we are 81,000 favorable to budget in our asset preservation fees. We were back in January through December, we were talking about we were behind and if we were going to be able to make up the ground, and fortunately we have. And so we're looking good there in terms of transactions and for our asset preservation fees. And then looking at the reserve fund itself, and the if you look at the investment fees and the realized and unrealized gains for the year, we're doing pretty good, approximately 2.3 million. I will say that May came in about 488,000 when you look at the investment income and the valuation change increase. So that was a good month for us in May, and we're kind of holding the line right now through June, at this point in June. But we had two really good months in our reserve fund investments for the last 2 months. Compared to prior year, 269,000 favorable, of course, budgeted into the asset preservation fees, as well as the performance in the reserve fund. If you look at that, we're 895,000 better this year than we were last year through April, which is pretty good. And then those APF transactions were actually at 7 transactions ahead of prior year. We'll finish at 1,100 to 1,115 or so this year, which is good. We always budget 1,100 and forecast 1,100 transactions in APF fees. So overall, with the reserve fund investments, favorability there, as well as the asset preservation fees and investment income, we are $2,988,000 ahead of prior year. I'm sorry, ahead of budget, and $1,638,000 ahead of prior year. So let's talk about our capital expenditure budget. This year we had $5,148,000 budgeted in our capital improvements for this year. The largest budget was for our single item budget was for our pin setters in the bowling center. If you wrap the pin setters along with all the other, the gutters and the foul lights and the rail systems and the masking units, is a little over $1 million total. The pin setters were about $892,000 total of that project, so $5.1 million this year. Our budget was it 11.2 for 26-27. I think it's where we finished out at. So a significantly larger year coming up next year. So we'll be pulling from our reserve fund, but with our cash inflows this year, we'll be adding to our reserve fund, which is good. So we're tracking right now through April, approximately 262,000 ahead or favorable to our capital improvement budget. So we asked for the funds for $5,148,000. We went out and got bids, got competitive bids, and even reworked some of the projects, did some of the work in house, things like that, and we're able to save approximately $262,000 on that budgeted capital improvement amount. And those are the things that we do every year. When we, of course, put the budget together, we're so far ahead, we can't really get competitive bids on everything. So we have to bid things out. And for example, when we bid a roof project out to redo the roof, we have to make sure we incorporate everything within that project that might be underneath the tiles and the things we might need to take care of. So when we scope those projects out for capital budgets, when we actually go and do those projects, we do what needs to be done to make sure. So, but we need to have the funds to do it, and we do what needs to be done. So if you look at, for example, the roof projects on this capital improvement list, you'll see they came in about, we budgeted, for example, let's see here. Glasses, sorry. Yeah, so if you look at, I'm trying to find the roof projects here. Were they on? Oh, they were on there? Okay, so see the Deer Valley roof project, we had $49,734 budgeted for that, but when we went to do that roof project, we were able to make that scope very small and take care of the things that needed to be done, and it came in around $25,000. So that created a savings in the budget. So keep in mind, when we put those budgets together, we try to incorporate contingencies and things that we might need to address when we get in there to do the project. And there are times when we need to do that. But anyway, that's an example of one item. But so we're tracking at about $262,000. Also keep in mind, we went to a facts and findings on our billiards room lighting, and the board gave us the permission to use some of these savings for that project. So that'll come in about $50,000 less, at least $50,000 less. And we'll see as we continue to PO the projects and they continue to complete as we finish the year where we end up at in terms of savings. And then if you look at the capital improvement items over $100,000, they're listed here. We're in the middle of most of these and still working on most of these, but these are the vendors that have been selected and the timeline in which we anticipate the projects being complete. Switching over to our allowance budget for unexpected capital expenditures. Most of these items that get done in this category are reserve items. The vast majority of them are. So they're things that are in our reserve study that are going to need to be done anyway. We just have to move them up because we didn't get the life out of them that we thought we would, or something has changed from a safety perspective or something like that where we have to go and address some of these items. So the list that's presented here, the 246,000 of the 420,000 has been allocated. We'll finish the year and have savings in that, which again will just stay right in the reserve fund. Any savings from capital perspective that we don't spend just stays right in the reserve fund. And so here's what of course, the well pump that we had to do over at Desert Trails is the largest at approximately 109,000. These are the items that we've done this year. And then finally, it's all about the fully funded balance in the reserve fund. And I'm proud to say that we'll be finishing the year at least the budget amount. We anticipate probably more of that number being closer to 49 to 50% at the end of the year with all the favorability that we're having in the other areas in our investment accounts especially. And that completes my April year-to-date financial presentation.
Thank you, Cliff. Could you remind me on landscape expenses, we've been tracking this for several months. You've been reporting that there's an expected jump up there, and we've had changes in costs and so forth. So this is through April. Have we started to see that start to close? And what do you anticipate? Will we be in trouble? Well, we've not trouble overall, but are we going to be? Is the exceed 77? Do you believe by end of year? Or?
Well, in the landscape category, we're 77,000 favorable to prior year.
Right.
In terms of budget.
But we were expecting that to be wiped out and then some. I just didn't know if we had any.
Yeah. So we'll finish in that expense category ahead of prior year, but we're 144,000 favorable to budget. So we'll probably, we'll finish a little ahead probably in the landscape category for the year. But the chemical purchases, the price of fuel in the supplies and services category, we'll see that diminish just because the price of fuel has gone up so much since April. So we're kind of experiencing some of those economic realities right now that are happening in the world.
Yeah, you've been warning us about it. So
the inflation and all that. And I didn't build 4% inflation into our expense categories for next year. So we're hoping that, as things die down and come to hopefully get completed over in the Middle East, that won't continue for the full year.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. Directors, questions from you guys? Director Brown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Cliff, back on the slide that talks about year-to-date revenue, which I think is in this packet here. Yeah, their membership. Year-to-date, we are now $35,000 under budget, correct? Okay, that's really not a big number. That's only about 600 members, very small number. However, are we seeing a trend here? Because I think this was discussed when we talked about the approval for this next year's budget. Are we having a smaller number of paying members because houses are now being owned by a single person, or in fact, if they are up for sale, perhaps they only have a single owner? So are we seeing a trend here that we need to be aware of? Because that to me is our most critical number, the number of dues paying members. And if we're seeing a downward trend, how are we going to estimate that in the future?
It's a great question, and it is our most important number on this whole financials, our membership revenue, our membership base, because that's guaranteed revenue for us. But when the dynamics of that change, our revenue changes. How we forecast that, a lot of this is just due to what's happening in the economy right now. So I would say that the economy is probably more conducive to investors purchasing property and renting them versus people selling their properties and moving in. But we still have a very good number there. So so we just look at the mix every year and budget accordingly in terms of tenant revenue versus member and associate revenue. So how we get ahead of that or how we budget that. We just have to look at it on a year-to-year basis, and they change. And this isn't what's happening now, has happened before, where the dynamics have changed within the community and the membership number changed. So they go up and down consistently throughout the years. So we just have to look at it from a perspective of what's happened immediately and then just make our best guess. But that could, of course, change. So we'll keep an eye on the trends and make sure that what has happened will continue to happen, which is those numbers will go up and down.
Yeah, that mix is an important, that was a great question. Anything else there?
Yeah, thank you very much. The other one, I think the very last slide where you address the fully funded balance in reserves. I'm going to ask the question, would it be proper next year, should we take a look at how we value the dollar value and the useful life of those items, such that anything, let's say, under $10,000 or $15,000 now becomes an expendable and it shouldn't be in reserves? That would affect how much money we need to keep in reserves if we change that overall spreadsheet, which is now upwards of like 1,500 items. Is it warranted that we review how we currently assess our items that are in reserves?
Yeah, a question was posed in our BNF meetings this year as we're looking at our policies. From our perspective, from a operating perspective, if those items are not capital items, they just become operating items. So they increase your operating budget. So you have to budget for those items in your operating budget now and expend those as they come up. I like the idea of a 5-year useful life. I also like the idea of the $5,000 threshold, because what that does is it helps us manage better. It really does, because it puts it on a schedule, and you're lifing it out and you're planning ahead for it, even more so than on a day-to-day basis, because you've got that item identified on a list specifically everywhere, not just in the pool maintenance department, but also in the finance department and all these other various departments. So I like the idea of keeping it where it is and tracking those assets and making sure that they're funded to at least a 40% level.
And there's continuity. The next year's treasurer chaired this year's budget and finance as well. So I'm sure budget and finance, as you guys are looking at next year, at this policy next year, you'll do as you did this year and make sure that's still in everybody's best interest. Is that fair?
Yeah, well, part of my question was, with the cost of items nowadays, is $5,000 too low of an amount of money? Because there's a lot of items that, are barely $5,000 that we have in the reserve study, which means which is a good thing, we are saving the money in advance by taking it out of the operating budget. But on the other hand, that does take money to fund in advance, which is a good thing. I'm just saying, is it worthy that we reevaluate this whole system next year?
And we will reevaluate it. We did this year. We did evaluate that in budget and finance. That's one of our finance policies. So we will take a look at it this year. My own personal belief is I like the threshold where it is. Even at 5,000, I really do, personally. But we'll take a look at it next year in the Budget and Finance Committee.
Yeah, that's what I think Cliff said it more clearly than I was trying to, but that's what I was conveying, Director Brown, that budget and finance, we'll look at it again next year, so definitely keep an eye on it there. Thank you. Any others, Rudy, Director Brown? Other questions? Director Turner?
Yeah, just a quick question about the sports pavilion. I assume that we knew that it would be closed for the new pin setters, and therefore the budget reflects a reduced revenue.
It does. I would say that we didn't know exactly when the pin setters would be available and when they would actually come in and when our closure dates would come in. So we built that into the overall lineage and spread that over the year. So we won't hit our budget numbers for the next 2 months, but overall we'll land ahead of budget and ahead of prior.
Okay. And is the extended closure going to have a big impact on next year?
It'll have an impact in terms of league lineage, but Gary's, of course, planning ahead. I know he's talked to Director Piaskowski, and they've got some things going on in terms of tournaments and open bowling that they're going to offset that league lineage. So yes, and we'll minimize the impact of that as much as possible.
Okay.
And there'll be some pent up demand. So I don't have any fears that we'll hit our budget next year.
Okay, good. And the other one is it too late to rescue the golf ramps this year?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's too hot.
Yeah, I thought it might be.
Yes.
I'm doing my best to help, though.
Okay, good.
Anything else, Director Turner? Other questions, directors? Yes, Director Piaskowski.
It's kind of going off of Rudy's question about the membership. Is there any possibility, like next year when we do finances, that you could maybe do owner members, associate, and then tenants, just so we could kind of, not every month, but just so we can kind of see what our trend is? Would that help us? I mean,
You mean?
yeah.
Yeah, we
Sometime,
can do that.
I mean, just to say, okay, we used to have, 26,000 owner members, and now we're down to 25, but we have
Yeah.
more associates. And
Sounds like a good, maybe a gym ops meeting presentation.
yeah,
Sure.
I mean, just because then we can kind of see if there is a trend,
Yeah.
and go from there.
We can do
Thanks.
that. Mhm.
Excellent. Any questions online at this point? Not seeing anything. Oh, we do have a resident coming to the microphone. And even though I know who you are, please introduce yourself and rec card number. Thank you.
Bill Weaver, 124087. I would like to see the board come up with a policy on trees. We have trees in the community, and some of those, if they were assessed, they would be beyond $50,000 as an individual tree. Now, parks and other places, and depending on what the trees are used for, are valued in various ways. And I think the trees, for example, on the tee on the golf course, is valued by its shade, not by its tiny size. We had 80 some odd trees that we lost in a storm a few years back, I believe on desert trails. Took a while to replace them, and they were all replaced by, I wouldn't call them scrubs, but I mean, they were small. We did not to replace the shade. So I think we should come up with a way of valuing trees on what they're used for. Aesthetics, a tree could go down, you could replace it with a nice smaller tree. On the golf course or places where the shade, especially during the summer, is of extreme value, you should replace the shade, not the tree. And we should have money in the reserve fund that covers the cost of very valuable trees and shade.
How is that, do you happen to know, Cliff, how we value the replacement of our environmental?
So that would be an insurance claim. And I think back then they had a very large insurance claim from the loss of the trees that happened, not just on the golf courses, but throughout the community. But as far as a reserve study for a tree, I mean, you're not going to ever be able to replace a 20-year-old tree. Go buy a 20-year-old tree and plant it. I mean, I don't think you really that's practical. So yeah, as far as the shade itself goes, again, unless you had funds to create shade structures over those areas, there's really no other way to do that. So the trees over at Desert Trails probably look really nice now, or Trail Ridge. They've probably grown up and they probably are
Right.
creating shade. So I don't know how we would do that. I understand the value in that, and I understand that it's an asset for us. But again, I don't know how we would reserve for those trees, just because you can't go out and buy them anyway in that type of bulk where you'd have to replace it.
But thank you for the comment, Bill.
I think another way would be to have a strategic plan for gradual replacement of the trees before they reach their age. So the trees are continually planted, especially around the golf tees, relative to desert trails. I used to walk desert trails in the summer. You cannot walk desert trails in the summer. If you can get shade on the trees, from the trees on the tee, you can walk it during the summer to the green, get into shade again and along the way. You can't do that any longer at desert trails.
That's and that's one thing that when we perform or scope out our irrigation projects, we thin those out most of the time in terms of just regular maintenance until they become an issue from a safety perspective or from an aesthetics perspective. That's when we take those trees down and replace them. But again, I don't even know how you life them out. It's a very vague thing. A tree could last for 100 years, or it could get a sickness and die, and
Right.
it could be perfectly fine 1 year at 30 years, and at the 31st year it dies.
Hard to tell,
So
but thank you.
it's a very, very tough thing, but I do agree the value in that is tremendous.
Yeah, thanks for the comment. That's a tough one to crack. Any other comments? And still nothing online. So Cliff, I thank you again for your report. Move on now to new business. We're going to start off with an update from, we're still calling it the Torch Special Committee, but we're now renaming it the Citizens Academy, the actual program. So Chairperson Bob Wilson will just, this was when we renewed and when we discussed this a couple of months ago, the committee had recommended moving forward, and they needed us to give them the authorization to move forward with the fall, and we invited Bob to come back and give us an update on what we'll be doing next. So Bob, thank you. Tell us, we have directors, we all have this in front of us, so I turn it over to you, Bob.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam President, directors, and members. Since the last time I attended on this subject, the Torch Committee has set an agenda and speakers for the fall for Torch 1 Essentials, and are in the process of finalizing the agenda for Torch 2 Conference under the banner, as Christine said, Sun City West Citizens Academy. I would like to announce that we have fall dates as well. There will be 2 sessions for Torch 1 on October the 12th and on the 27th, and the date for Torch 2 will be November 6th. Those members that took the course under the old format had very high praise for the content, but as discussed last time, based on feedback of members, we had 3 primary roadblocks to getting members involved in Torch. The length of the academy was one. People could not commit to 7 weeks at a stretch. The day of the week that the program was held, Thursdays, did not work for some people. Also, some members did not get to the point of making a decision because they never understood what Torch meant. The Torch name has meaning, but is not recognizable for its purpose. The renaming of the program, Sun City West Citizens Academy, is intended to address that issue. Directors have the brochure in hand, and there are brochures on the table in the lobby for anyone who is interested. We now have 3 levels in the Torch Citizen, or the Sun City West Citizens Academy. Each level builds and expands on the previous one. The first 2 levels are 1-day sessions, and the third is a 2-day session. So the time commitment is reduced and manageable. In Torch 1 Essentials, our goal for the members is to leave at the end of the day with all the information they need to get the most out of our great community that we are part of. Torch 2 Conference will have some common presentations, but most will be breakout presentations, which will happen simultaneously throughout the day. Some will be one-off and some will be repeated. Members can select the presentations most of interest to them. In some cases, they may want to return the next time Torch 2 is offered and take presentations that they missed because it conflicts with presentations they wanted to go to. Torch 3 Future will be a 2-day session. As you see from the brochure, the first 2 sessions will have 48 participants. The future session will be reduced to 20. Our goal is to have a more intimate, interactive session that, again, builds on the previous sessions, but also introduces tools that will help prepare members who want to have a more significant role in the community and be officers of clubs, or even Hope Against Hope, run for the board. At this time, we're looking to hold Essentials twice in the spring and twice in the fall, and conference once in the spring and fall, and the third session would be once in the spring. We need to get busy and, to get the message out. We're contacting the members that signed up in the spring, and brochures you have are now in the main offices, and for new residents to pick up when they come in for the rec cards, and will be spread among the various rec centers to their information kiosks. We have copy ready to go in the rec news, and want as well to get it out to all our social media platforms with modified messages throughout the summer and fall. One of our videos made previously might work to help promote what we're doing. We'll look at other videos, including, we'll ask Stephen to do a video to support the and promote the program, which would be great. Our webpage will be updated shortly. We need to get the message out quickly, frequently, and broadly, and reach both our year-round residents and our snowbirds where they are. We'd like to thank operations in advance for the significant support needed to get the program off the ground, and in particular, Katie O'Grady's continued commitment and efforts to make the program happen. To each of you in the room, grab a brochure. They're in the lobby. Share it with friends. I think at this point we have a program that will be easy to take in and will make significant significantly improve member understanding and enjoyment in the community. The dates again are the 12th of October and 27th of October for Torch 1 and November 6th for Torch 2. I would suggest when you sign up for both sessions, as only half of those taking the essentials will have available spaces for Torch 2. For Torch 2. And once we fill each of the session, members will be put on a waiting list to cover last-minute cancellations, and also to give those folks first chance at the next time the presentations in the spring. So, any questions?
Bob, thanks. I'm sure we're going to have a bunch of questions, but first of all, October 12th. That's great. And we'll start off with some of the other directors. I think I saw your hand up, Alan, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Bob, for the presentation and for the update. I do have a couple of questions. Since this is an unknown, if you get overwhelming response for either the Essentials course or, more importantly, people from Essentials wanting to continue on the conference, you right now have one session only of conference scheduled in the fall and then one in the spring. Do we have the ability to adapt if the response is more overwhelming than we anticipated?
I guess we would. This is all, as you say, this is new ground.
I understand.
So that if there's a significant need, especially for Torch 2, then November, we want to get whatever we do in before Thanksgiving, because that after that, everybody's involved in a bunch of things.
Agreed.
But we could look at doing a second Torch 2 in November if there is a significant need.
Okay.
Torch 1, I think that we would just keep it as it is.
Okay.
And the other unknown is the spring. So this is all sort of, we're
Yeah.
playing it all by ear. And we'll also be tweaking the message that we give as well, depending on how it's
Right.
received. And so forth. So
I'm taking a very positive outlook. That's going to be really successful. You're going to have to do lots of additional things. My second question is more to make sure that we're doing all we can to help you out. What do you need from this board in order, in order to make this successful? Is there anything else we should be doing to help you guys?
do what you can to get the message out is all I can, at this point, all I would ask. I think it's an important program. It's a program that's has seen changes in the past, and this is just another change and so forth. I can remember in 2018 when I arrived, I was glad that they stopped doing the projects under Torch, and that made me more interested in taking the course because that was a stumbling block for me in getting involved in that stuff. So, but again, this is a new thing for us, and we'll do what we can to make it the best that it can be.
I'm just going to make one editorial comment. I'm absolutely a fan of the Torch program. I was sad to see that it was going to be revamped, but I think that the committee's done really well. I'm really excited for you guys, and I'm fully ready to support you guys in any way we can. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Alan, for Alan's offer to take some of the brochures over to the museum to help get the message out as well.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Yes, Jolene?
Love the brochure. There's just a couple things, just next time you print them. The first one and the second one, it tells you that it's a full day. And if I understand, Torch 3 is 2-day session. We don't have that listed here at all. So people, I think, would like to know that. That's just one thing. And then the other thing, on Torch 2, it says you can change topics. When you advertise that for November 6th, are you going to advertise the topics that you're going to be talking about? Is that, I mean, it's like a conference, right? So you can pick and choose, but you can't have all 12 of them on that day because you're going to have a lot of, spread your people thin. So are you going to just pick like 6 on one day and then 6 on a different day? I'm just wondering how that's going to work.
We'll
I mean,
have
you might not
multiple
know.
sessions. What we've done is reserve 5 rooms here at our, 5 spaces here at R.H. Johnson.
Okay.
So we'll have 5 sessions going simultaneously.
You can rotate.
And then
Right.
you can move from one to the other. And in some cases, the popular sessions will be repeated through the day, so you can go and so forth. As far as advertising the specific sessions that'll be part of that conference,
I don't know.
it's difficult to put in a brochure.
Right.
No, when you go
No,
online.
I'm not saying it should be in the brochure. I'm just saying when you advertise for the November 6th, Torch 2, are you going to say, yeah, we're going to have local nonprofits, charter clubs? I mean, you can have the
Right.
different
In social
5
media or
yeah, the
in
different
RCN.
5 conferences that you're going to have for that day. So then
could do
people, you might get more interest and say, oh, I would like to learn more about social media, or I would like to learn about charter clubs. Just the more information that you can give to our residents, I think the more excited they could get about what you're offering them, as opposed to
Appreciate that.
coming and saying, oh, I know enough about charter clubs, I don't need to come, I have Nick as a friend. You know what I'm saying?
Poor you.
So, and then they might even say, that would be me. No, just kidding. But that's just a suggestion that you advertise it so the residents know of what
Right.
conferences you're going to be.
And they can get excited about, anyway, great
Any of
idea. And this is more not in the brochure, but as we go out and we're talking about it and creating videos and so forth, to get people excited for what they could learn. So I love it. And I also, Bob, from my perspective, love the fact that you and the committee are you're going to try some things out, learn from them, and then roll it into spring and so forth, because this is a really different way of thinking about the program. So appreciate that, and know that there'll be some tweaks coming up, but I'm very excited. As Alan had mentioned, I'm also someone who's a very enthusiastic supporter of the concept. I think this is a nice way of adapting to the changing needs of our residents. So let's see how it goes. Oh, yes, Director Grum?
Thank you very much. In looking at your proposed schedule, it appears that you no longer involve tours of the rec centers. Is that true?
Except Torch 2, Torch 3 will have some tours.
Okay, so if you don't take Torch 3, have you given any consideration? I really think we need to integrate this into what we're already doing, because I think it's 2 weeks out of the month, we give the tours of the 4 rec centers. And I have no idea how many people attend those tours, but I would think that this program right up front ought to encourage people before they even come to Torch. You need to go and take a tour of our rec centers to see what's available. At that point, that might satisfy your needs, and you won't be interested in taking Torch because you'll know what's available. Because, I mean, the bottom line here is this whole program has kind of 2 goals. It's for the benefit of the resident, and it's also, in a sense, generating people who might be interested in joining such things as committees or some of our volunteer organizations, or even serving on the board at some point. And I don't know to date, do we actually track in any way Torch graduates 5 years down the road, if they've actually ever volunteered for anything or served on any committee? Do we ever? We probably have that data if we contacted these people, but I'm sure we don't use it in any way.
We don't use that data, but I mean, anecdotally, most of the folks on this board have been through Torch. And we have, I see most of the people that are very active in the community have been through Torch. So it's, I'm not sure whether the information would be, what would we use that information for?
If that's one of the goals in the future,
Yeah.
I think as Rudy was mentioning, it could probably be created retroactively or tracked if that is a goal. It's an idea to consider. But what we wanted to do was not necessarily debate the merits of the Citizens Academy, because we've already said as a board we're moving forward for next year. We asked you to give us an update on what's coming up in the fall. Torch 1 and 2, which is fantastic update. Appreciate that. Any other questions, Director Graum, about Torches 1 and 2 or ideas? Yes, Ann?
I'm really excited to see how you guys have reformatted this. It looks very exciting. Is the board invited to attend, session 1 or the conference? Do we need to sign up with you to do that?
It's probably a good idea.
Do I get my brother-in-law discount?
Well, it's the Torch would, the board would have to make that decision. That's above my pay grade. Only in P&F.
No, I think that was a little tongue in cheek about the discount, but as you move forward and you come up a little bit more with the agenda, I know in the past, the governing board has been a part of the full day, the 6-7 week long session, but as we go forward, perhaps, there'll be, I don't know what the agendas will be, but the board may be formally included, or the board president or something like that.
Definite role in Torch 1 and Torch 2 this fall. So will the GM. You can't get off the hook.
Any other questions, directors, for coming up? Any questions online? How about here in the room? Anyone have any questions or comments? Well, then, again, our thanks for coming back. I hope that everything will go well, and I'm sure you'll be back in the fall to give an update to the board on how signups are going. October 12th will be the first session of Torch 1. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Moving on to 4.02, we've been, the governing board, of course, has been looking at our pool decks, and specifically the R.H. Johnson pool deck, because we had a failure of the warranty repairs that I think we're all very well aware of. So last September, the governing board, when we were setting our full year goals for this fiscal year, chose that the coming up with a solution for the R.H. Johnson pool deck was a strategic, if you will, strategic enough goal for us that we wanted to put it at the top of list. So here we are at the end of our fiscal year, and Herschel is going to give us an update on where we stand. We've had discussions all year long, especially in the past few months, about our opportunities. So Herschel, why don't you bring us up to, it's been a few meetings since we talked about it actively, so you can bring us up to date on where we left off so that we can reach a consensus today.
Good morning, everyone. As stated, the purpose of today's discussion is to achieve a consensus on which surface to install for the R.H. Johnson pool deck. We have $725,000 in this year's upcoming budget, and we're just looking for a direction to go on what surface we want to go with. So what have we looked at in the past? Well, we've looked at coating the existing concrete deck with EPDM, which is what is out there now. EPDM with coating, which is the same product, but they put a coat on top of it. That was similar to what they did down at Apache Junction. An acrylic deck, Aquaflex, and LifeFloor. Another option would require removal of the existing concrete deck, and this would be going back with a hardscape surface. So we would either look at travertine pavers, porcelain pavers, or artistic pavers. We've made several site visits to several locations, talked with many vendors, and kind of today I'm just going to go over what we found. So here's a summary of the surfaces and the cost of those. So the acrylic coating has an asset life of 5 years. The initial cost is the lowest of all of them, but it has a periodic maintenance cost of $75,000, where they would come out and recoat that every year for $75,000. The EPDM also has an ongoing periodic maintenance of $65,000 with it. It has a longer life of 10 years. Travertine pavers, put down initially, it has a $20,000 yearly cost of resealing those pavers to try to keep them to being stain resistant. Artistic pavers, it doesn't have a yearly cost associated with it. It goes down, and it basically should look the same 25 years from now as it does today. And Aquaflex, it has an asset life of 15 years. They have 3 different warranty programs. We chose the cheapest one here for the illustration purposes. Every 3 years, you would pay $45,000. They come out, they clean the surface, they put a new top coat on the surface, and they warranty it for another 3 years. They will do that twice. So in effect, you would get 10 years under warranty, but you should get at least 15 years out of that asset as long as you keep up with your maintenance. Some of the things we considered whenever we looked at all the pool decks and the criteria that we took into account in trying to make our decision was, is the product a tried and tested product? Is it a sound installation company? Have they been around for a while? I think some of the issues that happened with the last one were the company was relatively new and that had some issues associated with it. We'll look at the pool closure downtime, the heat resistance of the surface that we're going to put in, the aesthetics. Is that an important criteria for us to consider? Warranty, maintainability, lifespan, the safety of the surface, and the costs and the recurring costs. So I've narrowed it down to Aquaflex coating and artistic pavers as basically 2 choices. The choice you have to make, the first choice you have to make is, do you want to rip out the concrete that is there right now? If you do, going with a hardscape surface would be what you would put back. In my opinion, if you were building a pool from scratch, that's probably the way to go. That's not the situation that we have out there right now, and I'll get in a little bit later on the issues surrounding removing a concrete deck. Aquaflex, it has a durable 15-year life. It's easy to maintain. It's a cool surface. It has slip resistance. The install time for that would be 30 days, as opposed to the artistic pavers that has a 60-day install time, and it also has a 6-week lead time on materials. The other thing about Aquaflex, the company that we've looked at, they've been around for 20 years. This product has been installed in, I would say, approximately 20 different locations in Las Vegas and alone, and at least 4 or 5 locations here in the Valley. So the issues surrounding concrete removal. Damage to our existing pool liner is one of those. Damage to our underground piping. It's time consuming. We would have to do rework of our railings and umbrella support systems. Those are all concrete, embedded in concrete. And so once that gets ripped out, those have to be redone. Our deck drain system is going to have to be relocated, and then there are other potential unknown costs that we don't know of at this time. And I just wanted to kind of illustrate here. So this is the umbrella stands. These are set in concrete footers. I don't know if the footers are tied into the existing slab or not, but when they go to tear out the existing slab, these will have to be torn out and redone. Same thing with your light stands out there. I don't know if those are individual footers not tied into the slab or not at this time. The other thing I wanted to point out, if you go back with the pavers, currently our coping of our existing deck is 3.5 inches in thickness. If you go back with pavers, those are slightly less than 1 inch thick, so you're going to be 2.5 inches lower at the edge of the pool. That has to drain down to the deck so that the deck drain. So the deck drain will have to be relocated and made lower for that to happen. There are ways around it. One of the ways around it is that they would re-pour a new concrete coping around the edge of the pool and then run their pavers off of that. If they have to go with a lower deck drain, this same drain that you see on the left is what's coming in here to the right. So now imagine that's going to be at least 2.5 inches lower there. We have to get back up to the elevation of the doorway entrance into the site in order to match it. So now that's going to be a steeper slope. That's going to have to be determined whether that's going to be ADA compliant. If it gets wet, it will probably be slippier. So that's just something to take into account if we do go with the hardscape option. The site access for either contractor is going to be through here, but imagine your 6-foot wide location here, bringing equipment in to tear out concrete and to haul your concrete back out is going to be significantly more difficult than what it was when the concrete was originally installed. I believe it was like 2017 when the concrete was put in. They came in through the breezeway where the snack bar is now. That was an open area. They removed some gates. They had plenty of room to move equipment back and forth. That's not the situation that you have out there today. So this is just some pictures from when they did the deck removal back in 2002. Was that 2002? Yes. You can see here on the left, that's your coping. It's a free-floating slab that goes over the edge of the pool. When they go to tear that out, they have to somehow control that from dropping into your pool and damaging your liner. I think you can see that would be very difficult, especially with smaller equipment that they're going to have. So potential pool damage to your pool liner is significant, in my opinion. So looking at a summary of our surface, both Artistic Pavers and Aquaflex are durable choices. Aquaflex provides a little more creativity from a design aesthetic standpoint. You can mix match colors, designs, and make it look really nice if you want to. Closure time is less with Aquaflex at 30 days versus 60 days. Over time, the Artistic Pavers would be more cost effective. Maintainability of the two surfaces is basically equal, and the primary downside of Artistic Pavers are the issues surrounding concrete removal and the potential increase in the initial total project cost. And this is just a picture for those that don't know what Artistic Pavers are. This is what they are. It's a man-made concrete item, and so they can do some different designs with that as well. So our recommendation, and staff not being comfortable with tearing out the concrete and everything that surrounds that, we are recommending Aquaflex. It has a lower initial cost without those unknowns associated with tearing out the concrete. Many design options available. As I stated before, the company's been around for 20 years. It has a proven track record at resorts. It's easily maintained, and it comes with a warranty. So I'll open the floor up for any questions.
Thanks for the good summary there. We've had so many presentations and conversations about this over the past several months. The other thing I think that if we need to, we can go back. I don't want to revisit the decisions that the governing board made. I just want to remind us all, governing board directors, when we were looking at some of these options over the past couple of months, One of the reasons why, a lot of our, the places we visited and some of our surrounding communities do use acrylic decking. We didn't have a great maintenance experience here in Sun City West. It didn't look good. And we know that we would have to invest more money in maintenance of that. That's the reason why we elected, as I recall, and I went back to our meeting minutes just to double check, we elected to rule that out for ourselves because it didn't wear well, and we wanted to see if there was another option that was better. So just wanted to remind us of that part. And again, the first part of the discussion, Herschel, if I heard you correctly, the first thing we should talk about is the risk or whether or not we're willing to even look at removing the concrete deck, right? Because there are some pretty big risks there. So directors, let's start there. And again, we're looking for consensus here so staff can move forward. But we've already got the money approved in the budget. So we have money to do a replacement. And now we're just talking about, the next step there. So let's talk about risks of the concrete removal, because you walked us through that at a high level. Russ is at the mic because he's lived through that a couple of times with us. So anybody have any questions or things that they want to talk about? Because that's a big step. Yes, Nick?
Yeah, it's just, do we know if the underlying concrete is suitable for having the Aquaflex on there? Are we going to take the old surface off, discover problems with the concrete, and then have to do either significant repairs or a replacement afterwards because we've discovered it's horrible?
There has been no signs of any issues with the current concrete, which is one of my setbacks with tearing it out, because it's perfectly sound to our knowledge.
And it was installed, the current concrete was 2017, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I just thought,
Oh, all right. Sandra first and then Jolene. Go ahead.
visually, could we have the slide come up from when it was done in 2017 of the removal of the concrete?
Oh, that was
No.
2002, I think.
Oh, never mind. I thought that was the last time. Never mind. Okay, never mind.
Oh, that's okay. I don't think we have those pictures of the removal in 2017. We have the maintenance pictures that we saw. Jolene?
So I have done some research on concrete. And so there's a couple things. We cannot remove the concrete around the pool. That would be crazy for us. So the Aquaflex. So our concrete has a moisture content. Do you guys know that? Right? So will they check that before? Because the people I've talked to about concrete, if your moisture content is higher than 5%, you have to seal that. And I'm quite sure Aquaflex knows that. I just want to make sure that we are aware of that they do their job due diligently, if that's who we go with. The other thing is that all of the other communities that we visited earlier this fall, we saw cool decking, correct? Everyone had cool decking?
Acrylic.
Deck, cool deck.
Oh, acrylic, or was it cool decking?
Acrylic.
Acrylic, okay. So, but anyway, that's all. I just want to make sure that we make sure that Aquaflex knows that we know what concrete can do and cannot do. And so, if we have a higher moisture content, we just have to seal our concrete, which I'm sure they're aware of it, but I want to make sure that you guys are aware of that too.
I believe that's a breathable surface, so the effects of any moisture in the cement would not be an issue. But we will definitely ask that question.
Okay, thanks.
And again, just to refresh our memories, even though I promised you we weren't going to go backwards, it's the same basic process by keeping the current concrete deck that we would have to basically remove what's there. So we would be able to put anything we wanted to on top of, maybe not anything, but you know what I mean. We would be able to reuse that concrete if we wanted to for any of the options that you were showing, correct?
Yes.
Yes, John.
Could you put the cost comparison back up, please?
Did you have, now that you're looking at, did you have, you just wanted to refresh our memories, or? No, it's worthwhile. I mean, you went by it really quickly, so, and I got a chance to look at it yesterday.
I just wanted to look at it again, and personally, I still like the acrylic coating. You know, I don't know what all was involved with the decision to put down what is there now. But I'm sure we were looking at cost and looking at one of the lower cost items. And at least with the acrylic coating, if you're going to recoat it every year, it's going to look pretty darn nice every year, whereas the rest maybe not so much, but just a thought.
Yeah, again, we've seen what acrylic-coated pools will look like if properly maintained. And not all of us have seen it. We're looking at pictures, and a couple of us have had a chance to see some of the Aquaflex decks that have worn over time. And they also, if properly maintained, everything is if you maintain it properly, right? If properly maintained, you know, they looked really good for those of us who've seen them. It's a choice, for sure. Anything else John, that you wanted to add on that one? I know that we, as a collective, we looked away from acrylic coating because of the 5-year cost as well as what it looked like here over time, but we recognize that if properly maintained, it would look pretty nice. It's pretty expensive to maintain it over time. Go ahead, Sandra.
Like you mentioned, it all depends on how well it's maintained. Is Aquaflex able to be maintained similar to what our maintenance crew does, or is there a big learning curve over that, or what are we looking at on maintenance?
So the process would be the exact same as the EPDM rubber, which we've already been trained on. The biggest thing there is that on their last repair, trying to keep good with their warranty, they used up all of the material that we had on hand. So it kind of left us stranded. So yeah, as far as maintenance goes, the Aquaflex would actually be easier. And I would also like to remind you that during our tours, all those pretty acrylic coating decks that we saw, the oldest one was only 6 months old, all new, because I asked the question.
Well, they had been put down earlier, but they had been repaired or restored, right? Because the one at Verado was a couple years old. It's up for replacement. I think it's like 8 years old, what we were looking at.
Okay, so they did a full repaint of the deck then? Yeah.
However they're
Yeah.
maintaining it, when I called them back, because it looked so nice, I thought it was stone.
Yeah.
And when we were looking at some of these options, I called with, I believe it was Nadine or Herschel's introduction. I called the person, the general manager or equivalent, who walked us through, and he confirmed it's acrylic coating, but he also wanted to know, wanted us to keep him updated on what we chose to do, whether we went with acrylic or something else, because they're looking for an alternative when they replace next year, so. Oh, okay. Alan, I thought you were first. Thank you, Alan. You first.
Thank you, President Novello. A couple of items. One, my concern with acrylic coating, to respond to some of the other comments, we started with a acrylic type coating on that pool when we redid it in 2017, and it was gorgeous when it opened. But that's the key word, when it opened. With the wear and tear that pool gets, the amount of use that pool gets, I remember within a year, you could see despite the maintenance, and I have full confidence that we were doing excellent maintenance on it, but despite that, you could see the wear patterns, you could see the discoloration, you could see all of that. And while I agree with my colleague, Mr. Chatton, that every year or so that can get taken care of with coating, we're talking about our biggest community asset here. This pool, this facility is used more than any other facility in this community, including the golf courses. And I personally want to make sure whatever we do, it looks as nice as we want it to look. And it looks as nice as meets our mission of being a premier resort community in the nation. So I'm not sold on acrylic coating, and when I look at the cost over 5 years, I add those two together, and I'm like, well, you're kind of right back to where you are. I did in my research, and some of my colleagues here went with me on this, we spent about an hour and a half with the Master Swim team talking about the pool. Because if you think about the R.H. Johnson pool, well, we are having wear patterns and undesirable results with the rubberized coating across the entire pool. The most visible area is the lap area. And that lap area, because it does take a lot of impact and I don't want to use the term abuse because it's not abuse, it's normal wear and tear for a lap pool. But, you know, swimmers use a lot of training tools and things like that that are coming in contact with that wall. So we have to have something that can clearly hold up, and the rubber coating did not. But their biggest concern when we talked about what we picked out was when we got to the topic of having to replace the concrete deck. And they shared the same concern that was expressed here, which is the risk of damaging the structure of the pool. And I'm not just concerned, if you can put the picture back up of the deck things. And I'll be honest, I'm not just concerned about the pool liner. I'm concerned about if one of those giant chunks were to in any way crack that exterior pool wall, you will never get that repaired to where it needs to be. It will always be a weak spot. So I am completely convinced that we absolutely do not want to do something, and I'll be honest, I was pretty sold on travertine, that we absolutely do not want to do something that's going to put that pool structure at risk. That was a multi-million-dollar investment. We don't want to do it again until we absolutely need to. That's number one. The second thing, back to my lap pool comments, is when I did my research and when we had a meeting with the folks from Aqua Source, my question to them is, you can come in and do a resort pool, and you can do the deck and all that. Resort pools, people walk around, they jump in the pool and all that. But go back to my comment, and I'm a lap swimmer, so I get this. Every time I'm finishing my lap, I'm grabbing that wall. Every time I'm using my hand paddles, I'm hitting that wall. So I asked them if they have ever done a lap pool. Most installers will look at me and go, no, we do resort pools. I was pleased to hear that this company has done a very nice, very competitive aquatic center in Henderson, Nevada. You can go Google it. It's the Multi-Generational Center with their Aquaflex wrapping around the entire coping and so forth. And that's been down, they said, now a couple of years, and they have not had an issue with that delaminating from the lap wall. So that is very, very encouraging to me. Because my one thing I also don't want to do is end up with where we are today, which is 1 year from now, we have half our lap pool wall coming off and the pool looking like heck. So I'm pretty convinced as a board member that removing the concrete is not the way to go. And I'm pretty convinced that we need to go with a durable surface that's going to last for 10 plus years.
So if we can, thank you. Oh, I'm intruding. You complete your comments there, Director Schlemmer. Just to make sure that we're all on the same page, quick consensus. Do we have consensus to eliminate concrete removal at this time? Does anybody feel really strongly? I think we have consensus on that much. So that would therefore reduce that reduces the complexity a bit. So at least we're focused on that consensus. So Russ, you'll be able to get a little bit more sleep tonight. Because again, Russ has lived through this and lived through these pictures and so forth. So, but so that's good. So now we're focused on what do we do from here. We've mentioned, or Alan was just alluding to the coping, the edging. If you haven't been following along, we've all learned a lot this year. So the coping, the edging around the pool. I'm not a competitive swimmer. I'm on the other end of where we were talking with the Master Swim team and what Director Schlemmer was mentioning. I'm more of a lounger. When I look at many members of our community, they are as well. So you look at what a lot of I see at R.H. Johnson. We have a lot of folks who will sit at the edge of the pool and sort of put our arms back. We're all covered in oils or sunscreen and so forth. So I know that that's one of the things that I presume that we will have to look at and ask Aquaflex about, because they've done installations of both types with a different coping as well as with using this material as coping. So Herschel and Russ, and I think at least the two of you went out and you saw a local hotel-type pool that wasn't showing the greatest wear and tear on the edges, meaning it was all structurally intact, but it didn't look so great. Was that more of it's an older pool, and was it maintenance, do you think, or?
That they didn't have a maintenance crew that actually cleaned the surface on a regular basis, and what was noticed there was discoloration of the surface simply because it was just grimy, I guess, for lack of a better term.
So it's something that definitely would, as we move forward, these are questions I would presume if we went with Aquaflex, or anyone, we'd have to look at the edging and the coping and how that would be worn. Similarly, you know, we're not walking in, a couple of us were talking about this, we're not walking in out of a nice hotel lobby. We're walking in off our parking lot. So are we dragging in blacktop and so forth? And is that something you guys have asked about? Is there a program that will help us maintain it sufficiently to your expectations?
We threw,
John? I was asking a question of
Yeah.
the staff, but does anybody else want to, do you have something else to add on that blacktop, or, no?
So that's,
Sorry, we'll go back.
that's one of the main things I want everyone to realize is that the Aquaflex, I think, is great. I was in Omaha 2 weeks ago, and they had it on their splash pad for the kids, and there was some cracking, which, you know, they have really cold weather there and if water, so I wasn't concerned about it. But the one thing that we have to remember that the pools that we see that are resort-like pool, they come off of carpet. We come off of a blacktop parking lot. And so whatever we do, we are going to see a pattern wear. I mean, just because it's a blacktop, unless you ask everyone to remove their shoes before they go to the pool, which is never going to happen, we're going to see that wear. But so I guess going back to Aquaflex, you know, is there something that we can do to prevent that? Or is it something that, I know right now we have some rugs at that pool before you get out there. Is there something that we could have a bigger rug when you come into the pool area? I don't know, to, you know, put a
Are they
sign up there that
concerned
says,
as well?
drag your feet. No, but you know what I'm just saying? I mean, because it's blacktop. I mean, my mom hated our blacktop driveway because we brought stuff in with our shoes. So that's just something that we all have to be aware of. So that would be a question to Aquaflex, if there's anything that we could do to maybe give
More
that.
preventative, or did that come up when you guys were talking with them? Or?
Asked him specifically about that. I know from my own personal standpoint, and just say my garage floor, I put a epoxy coating down on a garage floor with a top coat. They put a top coat, a clear top coat on this as well. Cars drive in and out of my garage floor, I can wipe that right up. I mean, it's not hard to get off. They had, what was the product that they, SLR?
Simple Green, but they have changed to that SLR only because not everybody has waxy available to them. But yeah.
Surface be cleaned with, which I believe Sabrina's crew already is doing that.
In our initial meeting, Sabrina had asked a question, because keep in mind, we have four locations. All 4 locations have asphalt that the people have to come across. We have always faced the body oil or the lack of showering it off. It gets on the deck. And then we have the illustrious buildup of what comes out of the chlorine. So we have those 3 items that we battle. Sabrina brought that up to them. They said, oh, it doesn't absorb, easy to clean. This is what we recommend. Sabrina already uses it. So it fell right into her wheelhouse. And now he's recommending some other stuff for if we can no longer get what we get from waxy. So yes, it was asked, it was addressed, and
Okay.
they don't
You're on
seem to think it's an issue. But we will definitely be watching it regardless of what product we end up going with.
And I can just add too, remember too, that there's going to be 3-year warranty. That means every 3 years they're going to come in, they're going to redo that. And so you
Well, and not only that, we could go with a different warranty program that they have where they come in yearly and do that. It's a little more costly, but if that's what the route you want to go, we could do that. And then yearly they come in, do a deep clean, any repairs if necessary, and put a new fresh top coat on it.
And if, I'm putting you on the spot, do you remember the price of that yearly?
It wasn't a whole lot more than the $15,000. It was like maybe $22,000 a year,
Okay.
something like that.
John, sorry, Director Chatton?
No problem.
Trying to remember to be formal.
Just a quick question. How many Aquaflex installations have you seen that are 15 years old? There aren't any out there, are there?
I'm going off the sheet that they gave me. They put one in 2009 that they just replaced in 2022, so it was 13 years old. If you're starting to look at any of those that are going on after that, because they started installing them in 2009, nothing's reached 15 years yet, but I assume some place is probably going to at some point.
Yeah, and my
They are
point
out
is
there.
with the massive wear that we have, I mean, we're looking at these costs based on, it's going to be good for 15 years and a 15-year depreciation, whereas we look at the acrylic and that's based on 5-year replacement. If it doesn't last 15 years, those numbers aren't right. And if you really want to refresh it every year, those numbers aren't right. So yeah, the costs are getting a little closer, and I'm just kind of curious what that would look like.
It's interesting too, and I had mentioned to a few of you, it was harder to get access to some of these hotel pools when in my informal visit to Las Vegas than I had anticipated. I must look really sketchy, but I wasn't able to get up into some of these pools. I did want to see personally some of the older installations. But they're clearly out there. The vendor gave, when we were all sitting with him, there's a long list that particular vendor has installed and they're currently maintaining. So the older ones are out there to view. And if that's something of interest, if that is the direction that we go. But the ones that I personally saw were newer, but those are the newer. Remember too, when we made the decision for our pool decks, we had, for what we currently have, there were two different, as I recall, two different generations or a couple of different generations of sealant. And that's where one of the reasons why we ran into problems. The Kuntz pool deck, which is the same material, looks, although it's not as heavily used, it looks very different than the wear patterns and so forth on Johnson. And it's a lot older. But nonetheless, when I went out there, I wanted to see things. This vendor had said they changed their sealant formulation about 3 or 4 years prior. So I deliberately wanted to see some of the more current things to see how those are wearing, knowing that it's a brand new formulation. That was just my choice, but it could be viewed. And of course, we all know, we've personally seen a lot of acrylic decks that are around, but again, as I indicated, this data point of one anecdotally, local folks that are looking for alternatives to that, if alternatives are available. So they're closely following our decision. Yes, John. Director Chapman.
I would just say that if we are going to look at the Aquaflex, that if we're going to compare apples to apples, we should have the annual maintenance and deep cleaning on that.
Yeah, let's go
So-
back to that slide. That's a good point, John, Director Chatton. I know, we all know each other. So could we flip to the cost comparison? Because I think, even though, if you just look at it really quickly, so instead of 45,000, that goes up to 66,000, right? And so it does change the 5-year cost a bit. I don't think it goes up to $500,000 though.
But the 270,000 is based on it actually lasting 15 years. If it lasts 10,000 or 10 years, your
No, it's a
depreciation rate is much quicker and your
That column
5-year
is
cost goes
it's
up.
the 5-year cost, not
Yeah.
the full cost of ownership. So it's just a comparison of over 5 years, I believe, right?
change
Can I just, is it okay if I?
Yes,
Yeah,
go ahead.
thank you. So, and I just wanted to point out, I mean, just a reminder, because there was a comment about the amount of use. Just remember, the bulk of what's been provided to us from Aquaflex are installations in Vegas at mega resorts that see thousands of people and that are abusing the pool and the deck. Honestly, they're out there partying, they're spilling, they're doing all the things. And in fact, what's the one that's going to switch? The Palms? Yeah, the Palms currently has travertine. They're actually working with Aquaflex right now to take out the travertine and put in Aquaflex. So clearly the resorts in Vegas see this as a very good product. And I get that one could argue, well, yeah, but they're willing to, they have the money to replace and such. I get that. I'm just saying, obviously, they would do the same thing. They're going to do a cost comparison and how much life can we get out of something, and they're using this product in a lot of places. So that's why we, from an operations standpoint, are recommending this as the surface product.
And again, I hope you'll all agree, I have certainly no vested interest in this company. I do have a vested interest because I live here and doing the right thing, right? But in that visit, I was able to observe a couple of really large parties being held on that pool deck, large being over 3,000 people. And I think the most that we check in on a daily basis at Johnson is somewhere around 1,800. I can't remember during the prime season. So again, we have that's a really high use facility that we have for sure. But I personally viewed, and it wasn't even for a day, that was, for like a 2 or 3 hour party. There were more than 3,000 people on the pool deck, and the following morning when I went out just to walk around, you would not have known a single person was there. They must have fantastic maintenance crews, just as we do. But seriously, everything cleaned up really nicely. So I'd have to believe that this has some good wear on it. One other questions that we may, and again, I think, to recap, we've eliminated anything that would require the removal of the concrete deck. So we're looking for consensus on which way the staff will go in terms of next steps. At our next meeting is when we authorize any of our projects to begin, and that wouldn't begin until July. So nothing's starting, but this is more about consensus on, do we feel comfortable enough with, by next week or now, do we feel comfortable enough, with the, what's been presented to us on Aquaflex to coalesce on the staff's recommendation today? Yes, Director Pyskowski.
Okay, so I think Aquaflex is probably going to be the go-to surface. I would like to see us not doing it every 3 years. I'd like it to be maintenance every year. I know the cost is more, but this way we can at least say to Aquaflex, if something does happen, hey, we have done what you have recommended every year, and this is what's going on. So it's in your, ballpark. So, and I'm not sure it will last us 15 years. I'm going to say it's probably going to last us 12 to 13 years, depending upon what we've got. The other thing, too, I think we need to really consider is that we have another pool, Palm Ridge, that also has what we have on at R.H. Johnson that's also failing, correct, Russ?
A lot less, but yes.
Yes. So at some point, we are going to have to do that pool, too. So I understand their acrylic coating. I went down to Sun City and looked at their pool. They had the stuff that we had. They ripped it out. They actually put on cool decking, walked around it. Rudy and I went down there, walked around it. From the naked eye, we were like, oh, this is fine, right? However, we talked to 2 maintenance guys, and they're like, we just had this done in January. We're not really happy with what it looks like. Hence, they're walking off of blacktop like we are, and everything else. So with that said, they said it was cool decking, whether it was cool decking and or acrylic coating, their maintenance people were not happy with it. And it was put in January? In January. So that's just a FYI for you. So Aquaflex, I mean, from what I have seen, I saw it up in Vegas in 2024. Now I saw it over at the zoo in Omaha, and it looks good. But, you know, that's a whole, and the other question would be this. So can they put it, they're not gonna put it down in summer, right? When it's really flipping hot?
So they said they could put it down at night. We prefer that they don't do it at night. So I asked them, well, when could they put it down? I was asking about November. They said November would be difficult because they have a lot of jobs in Vegas in November. But October, they said, was doable. So we would look at putting it in October if we were to move.
And we're
that
talking
direction.
3 weeks out, is that what you said? I mean, they need 3 weeks to do this? Downtime?
He said 30 days, but they could probably get it done quicker.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And then when the pool's down, just have to ask, when the pool's down, are we gonna take care of that tile, clean that tile when that's down too?
Yeah, the goal is to replace that blue tile with a white tile and then throw in blue lights to give it the same effect.
Because white on white, you don't see.
Right.
Okay, great, thank you.
Is that included in the pricing that, or could it be included in the scope of the pricing of the project? I don't
Yep.
think it's been included yet.
That would be
officially.
2 different vendors because you've got one
Right.
that specializes in decking and then you'd have to get in a tile guy. We could, however, include if we're going to do something with those 2 indoor or the outdoor showers and combine those 2.
I think the board needs, or all of us need to spend a little bit more time thinking about the scope. I think we've talked about the, doing some of the other replacements, some of the other things on the deck, but again, the imperative is the deck. The other thing just to consider is design choices. I'm not talking about engineering, technical design, I'm talking about the visual design choices. Have we talked about having a designer work with our CSCW on presenting some of these visual design choices back? Is that included in the scope, or is that something we're expected to do?
So I spoke with them yesterday about that as well. So the price they gave us, the $585, that includes, you can do several things with that, different colors, different things. It's when you get into more intricate type designs, the way they do it, let's say you were doing a small area, we were wanting to recreate our logo or a couple of logos. Well, they have to mark off that area with some sort of foam divider. A guy then does that area in one color, takes that up, cleans it all off, and then goes on to the next area. That's where the labor comes in and makes it more difficult. They have a program where they will come down with their camera, go through our whole pool, and then they can just start doing whatever we want them to do on that program and come up with a design that everybody likes.
I would just encourage us as a board going forward to engage the services of a designer who can help advise on color choices and make it whatever it is that, you know, if we're going to take this huge step and we've made an investment in master planning and really looking to Director Schlemmer's point about uplifting the look of our largest used amenity, that we step back and make sure that we're making those choices prudently and with some advisory from folks who can give us an insight. There are other design choices that would come along with that, you know, what are we going to do to cover our drains and so forth. So again, it's just something that as we've seen, we really want to do this right and do it once. So it's fair to, and we should be looking at the cost of all of these things. The same design choices would be included in everything. So that doesn't change the overall comparison, but rather, you know, just sort of reminding us to step back and really think about that in terms of color choices and what it's going to look like going forward. Director Schlemmer first. I saw him first. Sorry about that. And then you, Sandra.
This will be very quick, and it's not on design choices. And before I say this, I do want to disclose, I am not a member of the master swim team. So in making my statement, I have no self-benefit at all. You and I have chatted about this just in passing. if we do move to a fall or a November or whatever, I just would like us to, somebody from staff to consult with the Master Swim program to make sure we're not jeopardizing any scheduled events or meets they have. And also to make sure that we can look to accommodate them in one of our other facilities. I think they probably would use Palm Ridge during the absence, but I just want to put that out there. They do bring a lot of people into Sun City West through their swim meets and things. It's great exposure for us. I don't want to leave them in a lurch.
Thank you. Sandra?
So in your discussions, I'm thinking about Kuntz Pool, and up there, the EPDM flows from the outside and into the inside spa area. Will the Aquaflex be no problem having it interior? Just continuing it, sort of like we did on the EPDM?
You're talking like into like the showers, locker area?
The spa up there,
Oh, right now
Coons.
we are looking at RH Johnson, but if we ever wanted to extend this to another facility, do we know if
can it
that's
go
possible?
inside?
I'm going to say most likely yes, but I don't have that answer for you right now.
Okay. John, did you have another question? Oh, Jolene?
So I just want to make sure we all understand. So if we go with Aquaflex, you're saying that they're going to come in, take pictures, and they can say, okay, we're going to do this in a light beige, and they can actually design it for us and then show us a picture of it, right? Like a
They can give us
rendition.
some initial
Right.
designs, and then we can look at that and then
Correct.
change it, and however we want, yeah.
So,
They have,
and
they
that's included in their price.
that's included in their price, yes.
And we just have to keep in mind that when we choose colors, lighter is better because white doesn't show up on dark colors. And we have hard water. So that we can't get rid of, right, Russ?
So there's a battle there though, because you have white in the chemistry, right? And then you also have the body oils, which is dark. So you have both.
Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
maybe, but they can show us and maybe they can even show us some of the pools. I mean, what they've done up in Vegas, right? So they can show us, hey, this is what Caesar did. And so we have a visual of what a pool looks like after it's been installed for 3 or 4 years. And I would imagine they have kind of hard water up there too. I don't know.
They do,
It's-
yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, that's it.
Were there others on this side? Thank you, by the way. Anything? A little too quiet. Anything more from our directors before we look for comments? Okay, are there comments online yet?
No.
Actually, it looks like there might be a few. Sandra's not seeing any, so could you read those to us?
Certainly, it's Gary Bach, 135435. There's 2 different comments. The first one said, for Aquaflex, if it starts to look bad before 3 years, it could be recoated before the 3-year period. His second comment was, we know the acrylic would be replaced every 5 years, so replacing it in 5 years cost is same as Aquaflex. So Aquaflex lasts more than 10 years. We save money. And I'm reading it verbatim.
Okay, no, that's fair. Thank you for the comments, and you're right. I believe probably after resident made the comment, he missed one of the things that's a consideration is having the vendor come in and do an annual maintenance program, which would increase the 5-year cost. But it is something that at least one of the directors has said is advantageous. So I think that's something that the board could look at. I think staff just wanted to give us some cost comparisons, but we've already said that we would probably be looking at increasing that. But thank you for the comments. Any comments here in the, we have a couple already. Just one so far, so.
Bill
Yes, Bill.
Weaver, 124087. I worry about the warranty. Can we negotiate warranty? Can we even write our own warranty? Because the only time a warranty is good is when you don't have to use it, because you're never satisfied with the need to use a warranty. So can we negotiate actually write our own warranty and say, this is how you're going to handle things? Or can we negotiate so that we can have an enforceable warranty with a company? I know in the past, it seems like we've had difficulty enforcing warranties.
Go ahead, please, and I was going to toss it to Stephen, but go ahead, Herschel.
So I guess first thing I'll say, so the warranty that I showed was what they called their Tier 3 warranty. And they basically put that together for us specifically. They haven't offered that to anybody else. So I believe that they would be willing to negotiate whatever points of their warranty that they would have.
And the other thing for us all to remember, because we've been burned as a community, right? We've been burned pretty badly, but a lot of the warranty really depends on the stability of the vendor and being able to hold that vendor responsible. And one of the things that Herschel alluded to is looking at the financial and, you know, the overall stability of this particular company. Company itself has been around for substantially longer than the vendor that we looked at here. Even though their first installation was 2009, I want to say it was when he came out, it was more like a 20-year, the company itself, but I could be wrong on that. Certainly at least since 2009, so longer than before, but that would have to be something that once the vendor is actually officially selected, that would be part of when they come back to make the presentation to Sun City West, I would imagine that would be something we would look at. Stephen, is that?
Yeah, so, and I think that, you know, to your point, the biggest thing is the stability of the company, which is why we, again, are recommending Aquaflex, but also making sure that that contract we have with them is reviewed by our legal team to make sure that it's going to be in a good place for us is something we'll absolutely make sure of. You know, the reality is that myself and any of the staff are not going to make a recommendation on something that we didn't feel comfortable with. If we were wanting to take the easy way out, easy, I put in air quotes, we would say do acrylic deck because that's tried and true. We know what to expect on it. But I have a really high comfort level with Aquaflex, and I think that when I look at the stability of the company, I look at the installs they've done, I look at the places they've done it at. I'm really happy to hear that you saw it somewhere else, even at the zoo. I mean, those things, when you add all those things up, that gives me a high level of confidence in this. There is no perfect surface, I think, is the number one thing to remember. There's nothing perfect. There's always going to be something about it, whether it shows a little bit of wear or shows a little bit of dirt or whatever. There's no perfect surface, but I'm confident in this surface. I'm confident in Sabrina and her team on how they clean. The ones that we saw here locally, to Herschel's point, they were not the most desirable as far as appearance, but it was not from a structural standpoint. It was entirely from a cleanliness standpoint, and you could tell they do not clean even remotely to our standards. Mm-hmm. And our team does an amazing job. So again, I just wanted to kind of throw that all out. I appreciate what you're saying, and I agree with you on the warranty. That is obviously one of the things we'll be making sure is tight for us. And I do agree also that I think it'd be wise to do the 1 year, every year thing. Because of the cost differential, it doesn't sound like there's a lot anyway, or some variation thereof. Well, again, we'll work with the vendor to make sure that we have a really tight warranty on this.
And I know that a number of us on the board have said this over and over time. There are 3 of us on the board that have been involved in several of these decisions, including the one that did not work right for us. You know, speaking as one director, I would fully expect to be buried under this deck if we get this decision wrong. So I feel quite a bit of personal responsibility, as well as the pride of knowing that, you know, we're living in a beautiful community. I'm confident, and you know that we always endeavor to do the right thing. But we've all, every single director here has spent an inordinate amount of time questioning our staff and vendors really, really closely, because we really do want, while there's no perfect solution, we take this very seriously, and we want to ensure we're making the very best choice, as we always do. But it would also be very easy for us to just check the box off and nod our heads at staff and say, sounds good, let's go. But none of us are, that is not the kind of board that you've elected. Every one of us is questioning this really closely. I just wanted to add that. Anyone else? Some folks here have been very, very quiet today, so I want to make sure that everybody's had a chance to either weigh in and comment before I look for consensus. Director Turner?
It just goes back to the warranty things, and I know some, in my experience in the past, some businesses, private companies have refused to do this, but do we ask for a copy of the company's accounts when we get a bid in from a company that's doing something which is critical to us like this?
You're talking about references or prior?
No, not just references, but the actual ask the company for a copy
Oh,
of their
financial
last 2
stability.
years worth of financial accounts.
I don't know that that's, I mean, we can look into that. I'm not saying that we
Yeah.
couldn't. We can look at it. I mean,
Yeah, and I know I've been a employee of a private company where that's been asked for and the company's refused to give it, but, you know, I just wondered whether we actually asked the question.
I think it's worth asking for. To your point, I don't believe this is a public company, so, but some assurance of stability would be good. Others? So, no other comments or questions online, or are there? Okay. So then, I'm looking for a consensus. It's not a vote, but the consensus is simply, you know, do we agree that Aquaflex looks promising enough for the staff to move forward and start getting, you know, moving this to the next step, getting firm numbers, et cetera? That's what we're looking for now. It doesn't mean the next step, should we go forward, the staff would be going forward and the governing board would be seeing updates before any contracts are signed, but consensus now on moving forward with Aquaflex. Big objections? Do we want to object if you need to? And we'll take a quick voice. Okay, hearing no objections, I think we have consensus to move forward on Aquaflex. Please don't bury me under the deck, Herschel. No, I'm joking a little bit. I look forward to seeing updates as you guys go forward. Thank you. We'll move on now to new business item 4.03. We're in the workshop is always discussing motions, or generally a lot of times we're discussing motions that are coming up. At our meeting next week, our final meeting of the fiscal year, we'll be talking about basically releasing funds and directing our general manager on our behalf to move forward and start implementing some of these decisions that we've made. So as a part of that, we make a motion that would delegate that ability, that authority to Stephen on our behalf to start moving forward. There might be some, and we've had some discussions over the past year, there might be some projects that we want to see an update on before he moves forward. I'm going to go out on a limb and say pool deck might be one of those in terms of getting regular updates on, but I'm just throwing it open to the governing board here so that we can start working. I'll be working with our parliamentarian and with Karen to formulate the verbiage of our motion for next week. So throwing it open for discussion now in terms of what are there any other items that we want to look at beyond, for example, the master plan design funds that are for the governing board to spend if necessary. That's something that we would look at pulling out. Anything else? And Director Becknell?
I'm still a little bit unclear about the courtyard renovation and exactly what it is we're going to do there. And just putting new furniture in the courtyard isn't really the renovation. I think is a bit bigger picture than that. And so I'm still questioning that, not that we want to do something, but I haven't really seen a plan of what we're going to do. Does that make sense?
John? Director Chatton?
I would agree with that. Actually, for me, there's 3 or 4 items on here that I would like to have a presentation made to the board before contracts are signed, so we can see exactly what is being done. And one of those would be the courtyard renovation. I'd also be curious about the website redesign. If we are going to contract with another company, a vendor, to do this redesign, I would like to hear from them, particularly before a contract were signed. We've already talked about the pool deck resurface. We need to stay informed on that. And as a member of the Properties Committee, the locker room, showers, restrooms at Beardsley, I'd like to see what that's going to look like before we sign a contract. I mean, these are things that personally, I'm not trying to limit the authority of our operations people, because I think they do a great job. But I think at least on these 4 items, we should have a presentation and look at what is going to happen before a contract is signed.
I agree.
Stephen, any concerns? Because it's really just looking at coming back to us with a presentation.
Yeah, so I have no concerns other than I want to manage expectations. The expectation of having a vendor come out and present is highly unlikely. So like getting a web redesigner to come out and say what they're going to do. I have no problem with staff. Certainly, we have no trouble keeping up to date on here's what we've moving forward with. Here what the scope looks like and how we're going to do things. That's not a problem at all. I want to again manage that expectation that the likelihood is we're not going to get actual vendors come out and do a presentation. That just wouldn't work that way.
But it would be a presentation, an update to the board before a contract is signed for.
Yeah, sure.
For website, courtyard, pool deck. And I had thrown in master plan. Did I miss anything? Beardsley, I apologize. I knew I missed something. So that's, again, the $100,000 for master plan, that I think that goes without saying. Yeah. So it's the pool deck, the courtyard redesign, Beardsley pool, showers and bathrooms, and the website redesign. Jolene?
I mean, Sabrina has done a great job in property so far when we asked for different things and she brought that, and that's what we're looking for, right, John? Or Mr. Chatton?
We can call each other by our first names,
I
right?
mean, you know what, when she did the courtyard and she brought pictures of what it was gonna kind of look like, and then she brought pictures of what kind of furniture, that's what we're kind of looking for, am I correct?
Yeah, we
That
want
type
to
of
see
look
what the aesthetics
are
are
gonna be,
going to
right.
be.
So I,
with
I,
this.
yeah, we're
Something
not
of that
looking
nature.
for vendors, but we are looking for a vendor that maybe Sabrina is looking at, so we can kind of see what we're going to be receiving in the courtyard renovation. Same with the tile, what they've kind of like have chosen for tile, that kind of thing.
It takes it to the next step because it was so helpful, Sabrina's updates. I had the opportunity to
Yes.
attend those meetings too. We could see a visual representation of what it could look like, and then when the vendors actually put something together, it's like, and these are the actual choices, right? That would, so
Exactly.
that everyone could get a sense of that. I think that makes sense. So, yes, John?
Yeah, and I would comment too that I understand July and August, the board isn't available, but if that's when we're going to do something, and that's when the presentation has to be made, I would say let's call a special meeting.
I think in order to move things forward, and remember too, through the wonders of technology, Director of IT is right there, through the wonders of technology, a meeting could be held, and it's an open meeting, where if directors are traveling but still have access, they'd be able to participate. So I think the board needs to be prepared for that when we make this request. We need to be available, not in September, but we need to be available whenever the staff has this on the calendar. Fair enough? So we have consensus then on those, and master plan goes without saying. I'm going to repeat it one more time so that it's also for Karen and myself. Pool deck, the courtyard redesign, the Beardsley update, and then the website. All right, so I'll work together with our parliamentarian and with Karen to formulate the right verbiage so that we don't have to go through that next week. Are there any comments, forgive me, are there any comments from our residents online? Anything here in the room? Super duper. So that takes us to new business item 4.04. We've gone back and forth on a couple of revisions to policy CO2. I understand that Director Grom and our chairperson for elections, Kathy Estes, have taken a couple of those small things that were pointed out, important, but verbiage small things. So if we had a chance to take a look at that policy, Director Grom in particular, because I know that this has been a challenge, we want to make sure that those changes do meet some of the concerns or address some of the concerns that you've brought up. Did you have a?
I'm satisfied with the rewrite.
All right, any other questions from our directors on that? So consensus to move that to a vote next week? Excellent. Any questions? I didn't presume any, so we'll move forward on that one. Last but not least, 4.05. Director Nick Turner, you have a couple of updates for us on the update.
Yes. I'll be withdrawing this update, so it won't be appearing next time. 2 reasons for that. One is it's probably right that this goes through the Chartered Clubs Committee, and the members of that committee and club presidents will get a look at it and be able to comment. And the other one is because we have one club that does have some qualifications in their bylaws, and we have another club which was having a vote about putting qualifications in its bylaws. That second club, that vote's been postponed. So if you like, the immediate need to make this change is no longer there. If we can keep that club, which does have the bylaws in its bylaws currently, if we can allow that to continue until the Chartered Clubs Committee has finished its deliberations and made a recommendation, then we can do that.
We certainly
So
know
there is
that-
no immediate
Right.
need for the change.
And we've confirmed, our council has confirmed that it's certainly, these sorts of changes would conform to or be in alignment with statutes. So there's no concern there. It's really just a matter of making sure that Charter Clubs Committee can take this up and have any discussion necessary. And the immediate urgency that seemed to be present is no longer there. So,
Yes, the opinion of council is that the RRMPs are the governing document here, and that so we can allow clubs to have qualifications if they so desire. And also the opinion from council as well, or the comment from council and from my own research, is that it's actually very normal. It is usual for there to be qualifications for a board director of organisations like that. And so the ability to allow clubs to make that decision for themselves, they don't have to have qualifications, but giving them the ability to have qualifications if they wish is probably a good thing.
thank you for that update. Are there any, so again, there's no need for us to consider this in the current governing board fiscal year. This will be something that will be taken up in the next fiscal year and brought before the Charter Clubs Committee. So it's not, we're moving that forward to that. Any concerns with that or any questions? Thanks for bringing up the concern and addressing it. Any comments online in the room? I presume not. So let's move on for board director comments. We'll start with you, Director Williams. Any comments today? Thanks. Director Grom?
Thank you. Nothing to add.
No, I'm in countdown mode, so let's go.
Director Forsey?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Director Chatton?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Director Schlemmer?
Don't pass out. No comments.
One comment, I want to thank Stephen and Herschel for all the work they've done on this pool deck. It has been a roller coaster ride, And I think that we're about to pull into the station, and I'm very, very happy about that. So thank you, guys. I know it's been a hard ride, and we've been hard on you for it, but thank you for all the hard work.
Yeah, it's important to us. I have to agree. It's been, we do appreciate all the hard work, and I appreciate all the directors' hard work, making a lot of personal time to go make visits and so forth. Director Turner?
No comment.
Okay, well, I sort of just made a comment, but don't pass out. I have no additional comments today either. But we will turn it to our general manager for comments at 5:02.
Yes, I'm sorry. I do have a comment because I do enjoy doing these periodic call-outs to our staff and the great work that they're doing. You know, we get a lot of member comment forms, and not all of them are necessarily concerns. A lot of them are, of course, but not all of them. And so I do enjoy sharing these, and it just, you know, there's several of them on the screen here, but the one that really stood out to me, I think, I mean, they all do, but I love the one about the R.H. Johnson staff. It's so true, and it's really true of all of our staff, of how exceptional they are and what they do to go above and beyond to help all of our members to really enjoy their time here. But if you just kind of look through these, I mean, you just look at how the residents and the guests feel welcome, sincere greeting as you enter, which I've observed that myself. Even I walk in, sometimes I don't know who I am, and I get the same kind of greeting from them, and it's wonderful for how our staff really treats all of our members. But even calling out some of these individuals, I mean, you know, the folks over there at at Beardsley, you know, Dee went above and beyond, took the time to explain all of our options and help through the great experience. So I think it's important to share some of these things and really pointing out, you know, different things that our folks are doing that make a difference to our members. I love even this one here, the Beth Weber over at the library. Always has a smile and sense of humor. And that's what I observe as well. Our team really is, that when they interact with our members, they do make an effort to smile, greet them, and really interact with them in a positive way. So again, I just enjoy sharing these. As always, I'm not going to read all of them. I try to leave it up long enough and filibuster my way through it, so you maybe are reading it as I'm talking. But again, just want to thank all of our team for the hard work. And I do want to echo, thank you, Herschel, for all of your work on putting this stuff together as far as the pool deck. And thank you to the board for their input on this and helping to make that decision. And I'm pleased that we're finally at a point where we can kind of move forward with that and have a resolution. So again, thank you all and appreciate all your support.
Now the fun begins.
Yep.
I learned more about pool decking than I ever thought I'd know in my entire life. So we all did. Thank you for all of that. Any attendee comments online or in the room? We do have one coming to the podium. Anything yet?
Just
Mr.
one
Weaver.
comment. I'm just wondering how aware we are of the 303 interchange and the effect it may have on Desert Trails Golf Course. The first description I read about that interchange that's being built said that the wall would be taken down along that area. That interchange is going to be up, it goes up 30 feet, so it's going to go above the existing wall. There's going to be new noise coming in. And my initial concern also is that there could be a lot of dirt and stuff coming in to the golf course from the construction area when that interchange is being built in that area. I don't know if we know or anyone knows, the extent of what's going to happen in that place and the effect it might have on Desert Trails and the other residents of the area.
We are aware and following it as a community, right? Not just residents are aware, but we were made aware of it at a presentation that was made at a meeting that the rec centers actually put together for our community back in January. So we were certainly aware. If we hadn't been, we were made aware there as a community, and our CSCW has been following along with this. We don't expect, to my knowledge, Stephen, we don't expect there to be a change, a removal of that wall, et cetera, but we're following along, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And in fact, Dan Mauer's been sort of our point person on that. He is attending the meetings and being our representative there to make sure that any of the concerns that might come up, that we can have a voice in the room on that. So yeah, we're definitely aware of it and we're definitely monitoring it.
Yeah, so we're keeping it as up to speed on it as we can. Our CSCW and although two completely separate organizations, the PORA organization has been putting a lot of pressure on ADOT for the community's behalf as individual residents. So if you're, for all of us, to check out those meetings that PORA is putting together so that you can continue to have individual voices, and just know that our CSCW is keeping an eye on it. There does not appear yet to be any impact to the golf course, but we're watching.
Yes, well, I went to several and watched the other meetings on YouTube as much as I could. I took a drive by there, and it looks to me from construction that it'll be almost impossible for them to do the ramp on our side without taking the wall down and then putting it back up. So,
Yeah, thankfully, Dan is keeping an eye on it on behalf of the community, if you will, the RCSCW.
Yeah.
And PORA is keeping an eye on it. So if anything changes, of course, I'm sure that you'll be hearing about it. But just to answer your question, the association's aware of it, and monitoring it is the best we can do. I'm grateful that we had the presence of mind to bring the ADOT presentation in so that we could hear about it in detail in January.
all right.
Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Anything else? Well then, it's my pleasure to remind you that the next governing board meeting is next week, our regular meeting, and our very exciting annual owner-member meeting, June 18th, 9 a.m. in Palm Ridge. There's plenty of room for you to come and receive updates. We're going to have an update from our master plan consultant. I believe there'll be patriotic cupcakes available on order. So again, 9 a.m. Palm Ridge on June the 18th. And the next workshop meeting will be held in September, on September 18th here. But we'll see you next week with cupcakes, etc. This meeting is adjourned at 11:06.